imagine for a second that you're lying in bed. It's late. You're scrolling through your phone. The blue light is the only thing in the room.
We've all been there.
Right. And you pause on an image. Maybe it's a pair of shoes. Maybe it's an ex-partner. Maybe it's a political headline that just makes your blood boil. You pause for exactly, let's say, 2.5 seconds. Then you keep scrolling.
Okay.
The next morning, you buy the same coffee you bought yesterday. You take the same route to work. You get angry at the same coworker for the exact same reason.
The patterns of life.
Exactly. Now imagine these aren't just, random moments. Imagine they're data points feeding into an algorithm.
Right, like we see with big tech companies.
But here is the twist. This isn't an algorithm written by some 20-something coder in Silicon Valley last year.
No.
It's an algorithm written thousands of years before you were even born.
It is a chilling thought to start the day with, isn't it?
It really is.
The idea that what we call personal choice or free will might actually be a script.
A script executing lines of code that were written for us, not by us.
And that's the unsettling reality we're stepping into today.
It is. And it brings us to the big, really uncomfortable question for this deep dive. Do you think your desires are actually yours? Or are they the result of a weaponized system designed to make you fail exactly when you think you're succeeding?
We are definitely leaving the shallow end of the pool today. This is deep water.
We really are. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking a source that is, well, it's intense.
It is, very.
We're looking at a lecture titled Destiny Meet Death, Chapter 1 by Elder Johnson. He's a pastor and Master Hebraist from the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel.
And I think the first thing we need to do is explain his methodology, because this isn't your standard Sunday school lesson.
No, absolutely not. He uses what he calls perceptual analysis.
Perceptual.
So if you're used to standard theological breakdowns or, inspirational messages, you need to shift gears.
A big shift. He isn't interested in making you feel warm and fuzzy. He's interested in the mechanics of spiritual law.
The mechanics.
He looks at the raw statutes, the definitions, the receipts, as he calls them, within the text. He critiques standard theology pretty heavily.
Why is that? What's his main critique?
He argues that it often misses the technical precision, the legalese, if you will, of the scriptures.
He's essentially reading the terms and conditions that everyone else just clicks agree on without reading.
That is a fantastic way to put it, yes.
And because he's looking at the legalese of the Spirit, we have to give a heads up on the terminology.
A big one.
This deep dive is going to use the specific lexicon from the source material. You aren't going to hear us say Torah, for instance. We're going to use the law.
Right. And we aren't going to talk about the secular world. We'll use the term heathen to describe the world system.
We'll also refer to the Creator as JEHOVAH. And perhaps most distinctively when we discuss Jesus.
The source refers to him as the salvation of Jehovah, or the anointed vessel.
Right. We're here to impartially report on this specific worldview, and let me tell you, it flips a lot of traditional ideas on their heads.
It certainly does.
The mission of this deep dive, then, is to understand a character the source calls the cosmic librarian.
The librarian, it sounds so bureaucratic, doesn't it? Like a guy in a cardigan shushing you in the stacks.
Right, not very threatening.
But in this lecture, the librarian is a terrifyingly competent entity.
Okay.
We're talking about Satan, the adversary. But the source argues we have completely fundamentally underestimated him.
How so?
We tend to think of him as this chaotic, red-horned monster running around poking people with a pitchfork. That's the cartoon.
But Elder Johnson presents him as the architect of destiny.
An architect, an entity that uses observation, not just brute force, to engineer human failure.
So let's strip away the cartoon image. Who exactly is this destiny? Because usually when people talk about destiny, that means something good.
Something aspirational. It's my destiny to be a star.
Exactly. But here, destiny is the bad guy.
In this context, yes. Destiny is the script written by the enemy.
The rigged game.
The rigged game. And the source points us to Isaiah 9:15, which refers to the ancient and honorable.
The ancient and honorable.
Elder Johnson identifies this figure as Satan.
Honorable. That is a word I do not usually associate with the devil. That feels jarring.
It's meant to be. It's designed to make you stop and think.
Yeah.
But it's used here in the sense of rank, dignity, and age.
So not honorable in character, but in position.
In his original position, yes. He is an elder of the wrong tree. He held a high position before his fall.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But the core concept here isn't just his rank, it's his function.
Yeah.
He is an observer. The lecture paints this image of a spirit who has been going to and fro in the earth, walking up and down in it since the very beginning.
So he's been watching us. For how long?
For millennia. Since the garden.
Wow.
And this is where the librarian metaphor becomes so potent. Imagine an entity that has kept a record of every single moral failure.
Every single one.
Every rebellion, every pattern of collapse since Adam. He has cataloged human weakness.
He has a file on every generation.
He knows how the Babylonians fell, he knows how the Romans fell, and he knows how your grandfather fell.
The source used an analogy for this that I found really helpful for visualizing this power dynamic. The chess master.
Yes, this is absolutely crucial to get your head around. Imagine you sit down to play chess.
Okay. A decent player. Maybe.
You know how the pieces move. You've played a few games with your friends, maybe watched a YouTube tutorial, you feel confident.
Sure.
But you are sitting across from a master who has played 10,000 games.
I'm losing that game. I'm losing it bad. Before it even starts.
You are losing before you move your first pawn. And here's why. It's not because he is cheating.
It's not.
No, it's because he has seen every variation of the game. He sees 15 moves ahead.
15!
When you make a move, you think you're being clever or spontaneous. You think, aha, I'll move my knight here.
A brilliant, unpredictable move.
But he has seen that move 1,000 times before. He knows exactly how it ends.
He knows my brilliant move leads to checkmate in 10.
He knows that if you move the knight there, 10 moves later, you will leave your king exposed. It's just pattern recognition for him.
So in this analogy, we are the novice players, and the librarian Satan is the master who has memorized every losing game in history.
Precisely. He knows the patterns of the flesh better than you know yourself. He wrote the book on it.
And this leads to a very important distinction in the source material: creation versus corruption.
Yes. Elder Johnson emphasizes this again and again. This librarian cannot create anything new.
Nothing.
Zero creative power. That belongs solely to JEHOVAH.
So if he can't create, what does he do? He can't make a new pawn, he can't make a new board.
He corrupts. He takes what JEHOVAH created and twists it.
Yeah.
And he predicts. Because he has this massive library of data on human behavior, he can predict exactly what a person living in the flesh will do in any given situation.
He deals in probability and pattern recognition.
It's like the ultimate predictive text algorithm.
I was just thinking that. You type, I want to go to, and it knows you're going to say the beach or the bar before you even hit the space bar.
That is the perfect modern comparison. And the lecture actually refers to this system, this world we live in, as a matrix.
A matrix.
It's a construct designed by this entity to make bondage look like freedom.
Can you unpack that? Bondage that looks like freedom.
Well, you think you're making a choice, but you're really just walking down a path that was paved thousands of years ago. You're selecting from a menu he printed?
So the freedom is just choosing between options A, B, and C, but he created all the options.
He knows which one you'll pick.
That is heavy. It makes you question how much agency we really have if we're just operating on these default settings.
That's the point.
But this concept of the matrix and this algorithm brings us to a specific number. Everyone knows it. It's on heavy metal albums. It's in horror movies.
666.
666.
Right. Now, pop culture tells us this is a tattoo or a microchip or a barcode on your forehead.
We look for physical signs. A man in a suit. A specific technology.
But Elder Johnson breaks this down perceptually. He argues that viewing 666 as a physical object is a distraction, a complete misdirection.
So it's not a thing you can see or touch.
He says 666 is a methodology. It's a circuit of deception.
He calls it the perfection of carnal knowledge. Can we break down the math on that? Because usually when people do Bible math, I tend to get lost.
This is actually quite logical within the framework of the lecture. Let's look at the numbers. In the scriptures, man was created on the 6th day.
A6.
So 6 is the number of a man. The source breaks it down like this. You have the number of a man, that's 6 operating in 3 distinct realms.
3 realms.
The intellect, the will, and the desire.
So 6 operating intellect, 6 in the will, 6 in the desire. 3 6s. 6 6 6.
Exactly. It's a multiplication of traps. It's a system. The lecture describes an algorithm of temptation.
Back to the algorithm.
Just like that data mining algorithm we talked about at the start. Satan tracks habits. He sees where you pause on an image. He sees what you buy. And he customizes the trap.
So it's not just sin. generally. It's tailored to the individual. He's not throwing a generic net out there and hoping for the best.
It's hyper-specific. The source says that for every sin, let's take adultery as the example used in the lecture, there are 666 variations.
666 ways to commit one sin.
Variations of circumstances, settings, triggers. If you resist one form of it, say the direct approach, the blatant offer, he doesn't give up.
He doesn't just pack it in for the day.
He doesn't say, oh, well, they're too holy. No, he just shifts to variation number 2 or variation number 305.
Maybe it's an emotional affair. Maybe it's a glance. Maybe it's through a screen.
Maybe it's a memory. Maybe it's a what if. He just scrolls through the library until he finds the key that fits your specific lock.
The lecture outlines 3 fronts of war where these keys are used. You mentioned them. Intellect, will, desire.
Let's start with the first, the intellect. This is false philosophies, what James 3:15 calls earthly, sensual, devilish wisdom.
What does that look like in practice?
It's convincing you that you are smarter than the law. It's intellectual pride. It's the voice that says, that's an outdated rule for simple people. I'm more enlightened.
I've evolved beyond that.
Precisely. The second is the will, the desire for autonomy, the Luciferian I will ascend.
The need to be the boss of your own life, my rules.
I am the captain of my soul. That's the will being targeted.
I'm a third.
The desire, the insatiable hunger for more. And this is where the source brings in a fascinating case study. He points to King Solomon.
Solomon the Wise. I thought he was the protagonist in the wisdom literature. I grew up thinking Solomon was the ultimate good guy who just had a problem with too many wives.
Well, he started with wisdom. He asked for wisdom and he got it. But the lecture points to a specific verse, 1 Kings 10:14.
Okay.
It states that the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold.
Wait, 666. I completely missed that connection in the text. I've read that story, but the number never clicked.
It's right there. And Elder Johnson argues this was not a coincidence.
It ain't be.
This represents the ceiling of human achievement. Solomon had maximum wealth, maximum wisdom, maximum fame. He had it all.
He was the pinnacle of human success.
But it was the perfection of imperfection.
Because it was all physical. We were all focused on the here and now.
It was carnal achievement without the spirit's limit. That 666 talents of gold crushed the stewardship of his soul. It was the trap of more.
So the very thing that looked like his greatest blessing was actually his downfall.
It was the weight that broke him. He had everything, yet he ended up building altars to heathen gods and collapsing into total spiritual failure. The gold wasn't the blessing, it was the weight.
To the material world suffocating the spiritual.
It was destiny's masterstroke. The librarian gave him everything a man could want, and in doing so took everything that mattered.
So destiny, this librarian, uses our success against us just as much as our failure.
Often more so. Success makes you predictable.
How so? I would think failure makes you predictable.
Failure makes you desperate, but success makes you think you are self-sufficient. It makes you think you have the formula.
I've got this.
And once you think you are self-sufficient, you are in the matrix. You are relying on your own strength, which is exactly what the chess master wants because he knows the limits of human strength better than you do.
Okay, let's go back even further. Before Solomon, before the algorithm got so complex, let's go to the garden.
The source code.
The source code. The source has a very unique take on what happened with Adam and Eve. And I have to say, this part really made me pause and rewind.
This is a pivotal part of the perceptual analysis. Elder Johnson redefines the dynamic in the Garden of Eden. He argues that the error started before the fruit was eaten.
Before the fruit. I always thought the bite was the start of the fall.
Uh-huh.
That's the classic Sunday school picture. The apple, the snake.
Most people do. That's the simple narrative. But the source argues it's about the relationship between the man, representing flesh, and the woman, representing the spirit.
So the woman isn't just a biological female in this interpretation.
Not just. She is the spiritual helper or guide that was meant to cover the flesh. She was the spiritual authority in the relationship.
And the problem was in how Adam treated this guide.
It was the sin of naming. Think about the pattern JEHOVAH established. JEHOVAH brought the animals to Adam. What did Adam do?
He named them. That's a cow. That's a lion. That's a giraffe.
Right. And by naming them, he was demonstrating dominion over them. He was the boss. He was categorizing them. He was defining their nature from a position of authority.
That's his job.
It was his job over the beasts of the field. But then JEHOVAH brought the woman. And what did Adam do?
He said, she shall be called woman.
He named her.
He used the same pattern.
He used the same pattern. The argument here is that Adam tried to exercise dominion over the spirit. He treated the divine guide, the thing meant to lead him and cover him, like a beast or a bird, something to be categorized and ruled over, rather than something to be received and obeyed.
So instead of saying, I submit to this guidance, he said, I'm going to put a label on this and file it away under my control.
He tried to boss the spirit. He put the flesh in charge of the spirit instead of the other way around. He inverted the hierarchy.
And the source connects this directly to modern religion.
Absolutely. People acknowledge Jehovah. They name him. They have titles for him. They put him in a theological box. But they don't receive the spirit as a governing authority.
They want to be in charge of the relationship.
They want Jehovah on their terms, like a pet lion. Powerful, but ultimately under their control.
And this leads to the concept of nakedness, which, again, usually people think just means they lost their clothes.
Right, a simple physical state. But the lecture points out a critical verse, Genesis 2:25. They were naked and not ashamed before eating the fruit.
So the nakedness was already there.
The source defines nakedness as being without spiritual covering. They were vulnerable to the librarian because they hadn't actually submitted to the spirit's protection. The flesh was in charge.
So when they ate the fruit,
They didn't become naked. They just got the eyes, the understanding, to realize they had been naked the whole time. The shame came from the realization of their unprotected state,
they realized they were exposed.
exposed to the algorithm. Without the spirit as a covering, the flesh is just open data for the librarian. The librarian can read you like a book because there is no spiritual firewall.
So if the flesh is predictable and the librarian has all the data on it, how do you beat the system?
Well, this brings us to the salation of Jehovah,
Countermeasure.
the countermeasure. The source has a very specific Christology, a specific way of viewing this figure that serves as the answer to this entire system. And again, this is distinct.
It is. It challenges a lot of standard doctrines.
Mm.
Elder Johnson describes the salvation of Jehovah as a vessel, a prophet upon whom the Spirit descended.
He uses the analogy of the dove and the branch.
From the baptism scene.
Yes, the dove, which is the spirit, rests on the branch, which is the man. The dove does not become the branch. The branch does not become the dove.
They are distinct.
They remain distinct but united in operation. The spirit clothed the man.
Why is that distinction so important for this argument about destiny and the librarian?
It's everything. It's about the unprogrammable man.
The unprogrammable man.
The source argues that because the spirit clothed the man, he was operating under a different law. It challenges the heathen doctrine of incarnation, the idea of Jehovah morphing into a man. Instead, it's a man fully submitted to the spirit.
And that makes him unprogrammable. How?
Think about the wind. The source quotes John 3:8. The wind bloweth where it listeth. You can hear the sound, but you don't know where it comes from or where it goes.
It's erratic, it's powerful, it's mysterious.
And Satan the librarian deals in patterns. He deals in cause and effect. He hates mystery.
He can't chart the wind.
He can't. Satan has data on flesh. He knows what a man will do when he's hungry or proud or tired or rejected. He has no data on the spirit.
None.
The spirit is completely unpredictable to him. So a man operating in the flesh is playing the chess master's game.
A game he's guaranteed to lose.
But a man operating in the spirit is playing a game the master has never seen. He's making moves that aren't in the database.
He's a ghost in the machine.
That's the term the lecture uses. When you are born of the spirit, you become invisible to the algorithm. You are in the world, but your movements cannot be predicted by the enemy because they originate from a source he cannot access.
So he's looking for you in the library of the flesh.
But you aren't there anymore. You checked out.
So the goal is to stop being predictable, to stop operating on those default settings of the flesh.
Yes. To stop playing the game of flesh entirely. Because if you play the flesh game, even if you play it religiously, the librarian wins every time.
They wrote the rules of that game.
He wrote the rules, he owns the board, he designed the pieces.
But the librarian is smart. He knows we want to feel special. He knows we want to be self-made.
He thrives on that.
He knows we love a good underdog story where we are the hero. And this leads to the next segment, the con, the Lucifer pattern.
This is where it gets really interesting and psychological. The source analyzes the fall of Lucifer. Not as a monster initially, but as the son of the morning, a light bearer.
He was beautiful. He wasn't created ugly or evil.
He was perfect in beauty and wisdom. The con wasn't that Satan corrupted Lucifer with vices like drugs or sloth. He didn't tempt him with bad things.
Yeah.
He corrupted Lucifer's gifts.
The gifts became the trap.
The logic of I will ascend, it's the transformation of stewardship into ownership.
Stewardship to ownership. Okay.
Lucifer started believing that the light he carried belonged to him, not the creator. He looked in the mirror and fell in love with the reflection.
He thought, I am the source of this light.
This beauty is mine, this wisdom originated with me. That's the core of the deception.
And the source brings this right down to modern life. He talks about the beauty trap and the strength trap, and it hits hard because we see this on social media every single day.
Let's look at the beauty trap. The adversary doesn't tempt a beautiful woman with beauty. She already has it. That's not the hook.
So what's the temptation?
He tempts her to worship her beauty, to demand that others worship it, to build her entire identity around it.
I woke up like this.
Yeah.
This is mine. Look at me.
Exactly. The source argues that she is tempted to believe she created this beauty, that it's her sovereign territory. It turns a gift of Jehovah into an idol of self.
She becomes the curator of her own museum.
And everyone has to pay admission with their likes and their praise.
And the strength trap.
Same mechanic, the athlete, the strongman, the CEO. The source mentions the $100 million contract. The temptation is to believe that this success is the result of his grind, his hustle, his hours in the gym.
I'm a self-made man. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps.
That phrase is the ultimate deception in this worldview. The librarian whispers, you did this. You owe nothing to anyone. You are the architect of your own fortune.
And the moment you believe that,
You have fallen into the Lucifer trap. You have ascended into your own ego. You have claimed ownership of the talent Jehovah merely lent you.
and the scary part is, it feels good. It feels like freedom. It feels like empowerment.
That's the ultimate deception. Satan convinces people that their bondage, their addiction to attention, to power, to wealth, is actually freedom or wings or self-expression.
It makes the prison cell look like a penthouse suite.
He does, and he convinces them that the hunger they feel is their own. But the source argues something even more disturbing. He says the hunger is often an ancestral seed.
Ancestral, like genetic.
Yeah.
Like I inherited my grandma's nose, I inherited her specific temptation.
In a sense, yes. The lecture argues that the librarian plants seeds generations in advance.
Wow.
He knows what your father desired. He knows what your grandfather struggled with. He knows the secret sins of your great-grandmother.
He has the whole family file.
So by the time you feel a craving, it's not a fresh desire. It's not spontaneous. It's a legacy code running in your DNA, a pre-built path.
You are just the next chapter in a book of collapse that was written long ago.
You are. You're walking in tracks laid before the mountains were named.
That is claustrophobic. It makes you feel like a puppet on a string.
It is supposed to be. It's meant to show the futility of fighting this enemy on his own turf.
You can't out-willpower an algorithm that has been running on your bloodline for centuries.
You can't just decide to beat a demon that knew your ancestors by name.
So how do we fight? If we are the novice chess player, and he is the master, and he's been studying our family tree for 500 years, what does spiritual warfare actually look like in this perceptual model?
It starts with recognizing the tactics. The source references 1 Peter 5:8, the roaring lion.
Seeking whom he may devour.
But notice the tactic. A lion doesn't attack the whole herd head-on. That's inefficient.
He goes for the weak one, the one that's isolated.
He stalks the straggler. And the source gives a very colloquial, modern example. The person texting in the parking lot.
I remember that part. It's so specific. You're sitting in your car, distracted, looking at your phone.
Yeah.
You're isolated.
You're in a transition space. You're not at work. You're not at home. You're distracted, vulnerable. That's when the predator strikes.
He waits for the perfect storm.
Exhaustion, post-victory relaxation when your guard is down, or isolation. He doesn't waste energy attacking you when you're fully armored and alert in the middle of the herd.
He waits until you are scrolling, mindless, disconnected.
But that's his moment.
So, if we can't outsmart him because he has 10,000 games of experience, what is the solution? How do we get off the board?
The solution presented is surprisingly simple, but incredibly difficult to execute. It's from John 3:30.
Okay.
He must increase, but I must decrease.
Decrease.
We have to shrink the target.
Shrink the target.
It goes back to the Ghost in the Matrix concept we touched on. You have to become a vessel that decreases the ego so significantly that the librarian's algorithms can no longer find a hook.
If there's no I to be proud, he can't hook you with pride. If there's no me that wants to be famous, he can't hook you with ambition.
Exactly. If there is no I that desires ownership of a gift, He can't hook you with the Lucifer pattern.
So it's about renouncing the sovereignty of pride and what the source calls the geography of the I.
Yes, stopping the naming of things, trying to control them, and returning to receiving the Spirit. It's a constant active declaration, I own nothing, I am nothing, I am just a vessel for something greater.
It sounds like ego death.
In a way, yes, it's the death of the carnal identity so that the spiritual identity can live. And the source is very, very firm on this. You cannot simply step on the devil's head.
Yeah, he mentioned that a few times, the idea that believers can just casually stomp on the enemy. I bind you, Satan, and all that.
Elder Johnson dismisses that as dangerous arrogance. He says, you think you can step on him. He's an ancient dignitary.
It's like a child trying to fight a general.
You don't step on an ancient intelligence that has observed the fall of angels. You don't beat him with enthusiasm. You beat him with the law and the covenant.
So how do you beat him?
You beat him by exiting his jurisdiction, which is the flesh, and entering a jurisdiction he cannot touch, which is the spirit. You don't fight him hand to hand. You move to a higher court where he has no standing.
So to wrap this up, destiny in this lecture isn't a mystical path to greatness. It's a rigged casino.
A rigged game run by a librarian who has memorized every losing move in history.
And most of us are playing right into his hands because we think we're special. We think this time we can beat the house.
But the house always wins when you play by its rules.
The choice, then, is pretty stark. You can walk in the tracks laid out for you, living a script written by the enemy, following the desires that were planted in your bloodline.
Or you can return to the law of JEHOVAH.
It's a choice between the algorithm and the spirit.
And one is predictable, comfortable, and ultimately deadly. It leads to the collapse we see all around us. The other is unpredictable, demanding, and requires total submission.
But it's the only way to be truly free.
It's the only way to be unprogrammable.
It definitely makes you look at your own ambitions a little differently. It makes you check your ego at the door.
It raises that deeply uncomfortable question. Is this my dream? Or is this just the bait that works on my demographic?
Is this my calling, or is this just the trap set for my personality type?
It forces a level of self-examination that most of us would rather avoid.
And that is where we are going to leave you today with a final thought to chew on. If the librarian knows what your father desired and what his father desired, and he creates a key specifically for your DNA, are your current cravings actually yours?
That's the question.
Or are you just the next chapter in a book of collapse that was written long ago? The only way to close the book is to stop reading from the library of the flesh.
That's the challenge. Step out of the library.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of the unseen. We'll see you next time.
Soul were never meant to own what you cared out for, what you cared out for. We die alone, we'll all die young. What you cared out for, what you cared out from. Snow glistening on the ledge, whiskey on the bed. Shake it out and light a cigarette. I'll miss me when you shake me all out if I'm wrong for you, and shake it all out when I'm gone. For you, is the devil so bad if he cries in his sleep while the earth turns and his kids learn to say forget you? They don't love you. Does the devil get scared if she dies in her dreams where the earth burns? She cries 'cause she's nothing like you. She like you. Do you want from a devil like me? Devil like me. See, the devil don't mean gets to exceed expectation. Holds riddle in your head, little bit of lead. Shake it out and line a silhouette. I'll miss me when you wish you weren't kind of glad. Shake me all out when you're done. For you, and shake it all out when I'm gone. For you, is the devil so bad if he cries in his sleep while the earth turns and his kids learn to say forget you? They don't love you. Does the devil get scared if she dies in her dreams where the earth burns? She cries 'cause she's nothing like you. She like you. What do you want from a devil like me? Am I like you?